G'day and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another crazy dose of EV and net zero insanity in MGUY EV news for Monday the 26th of May 2025. Be sure to follow me on the usual socials for more content, links in the description, and please make sure you're subscribed and have enabled all notifications so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you'd like to support this channel, why not buy me a coffee? Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. So firstly, the news video is a bit delayed this week. It normally comes out on a Sunday, but I was away in the nation's capital the last couple of days, so we're putting a news video out today, and normal service will be resumed tomorrow. This first story is very interesting. Mazda has decided to pull its only electric car from the market. And guess why? Because of poor range and poor practicality, as it says. End of the road. Major car brand discontinues its first and only electric car that was hamstrung by short range and poor practicality. However, they plan to make another attempt at an EV next year. Well, maybe they will. Mazda is pulling the plug on its first and only electric car, criticised during its 4-year run for its limited range and cramped cabin. The MX-30, which made its world debut back in 2019 at the Tokyo Motor Show, is a subcompact crossover SUV offered as an EV and as a plug-in hybrid. Uninspiring. But now its electric variant has quietly reached the end of its production lifespan. Launched in the UK in 2021, the MX-30 was positioned against the likes of the Kia Soul EV and the Peugeot E2008. However, it struggled to gain traction, primarily due to its short range and limited practicality. Well, that just about sums up all EVs, really. One of the most significant criticisms of the MX-30, aside from its bizarre coach-style doors, was its modest range of just 124 miles thanks to its 35.5 kilowatt-hour battery. Well, I hope Mazda is sensible enough not to even waste a cent more of their budget in developing another EV, and just go full speed with their combustion variants, because those are the ones that will continue to sell way better than any of this electric rubbish. And in other similar news, Dodge is killing off its electric Charger Daytona. Well, hands up who would buy an electric muscle car, an electric American muscle car? Anybody? No, of course not. Because the whole point of a muscle car is a big fat V8 engine and a big fat noise out of the exhaust. So you put an electric motor in it, it's just pointless. And guess what? Nobody wanted to buy it. It's official. Dodge is killing the electric Charger Daytona RT. Slow sales appear to have doomed the entry-level Charger Daytona, which will be discontinued for 2026. What on earth made them think that anybody who was on the lookout for an American muscle car would buy an electric one? It's absolutely... what's going on in those heads? Dodge has found itself in a bit of a pickle with the Charger Daytona, and let's just say the Brotherhood of Muscle isn't exactly embracing the EV revolution. In fact, it seems like their idea of muscle is still firmly rooted in gas-powered engines, leaving expensive electric coupes to languish on dealership lots, forcing huge markdowns. A quick search online reveals a $61,000 Charger Daytona listed for a mere $34,000 in Florida. Over in Texas, Richardson Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, blimey what a mouthful, has their 61K Charger priced at $39,000. Of course, nobody wants them, for goodness sake. While those are just two examples, it's clear the Charger Daytona was an answer to a question no one asked. Dodge might finally be acknowledging that, as a new report suggests, the entry-level RT variant will be killed off for 2026. Well, who didn't see that coming? I mean, really, there is a bit of a clarification at the top here. A Dodge spokesman reached out to confirm that the base Charger RT will indeed be discontinued from the lineup, leaving the Scat Pack as the sole option in the electric Daytona range, at least for the 2026 model year. Well, if they're not going to buy the base model, they're certainly not going to buy the souped up version. I mean, seriously, a muscle car is its entire soul, its heart and soul is the engine and the noise. So why on earth people at Dodge really believed, it's like the Mustang Mach-E It's ridiculous. Ford's in the same. They've got the same brain virus as Dodge, thinking that people who would normally buy a Mustang or a Charger would, in any universe, want an electric version. It's hilarious. And this story from the US is interesting because the number of electric chargers are dwindling. There's no incentive to build these things because they're wildly expensive, and also they have wafer-thin margins. And quite frankly, nobody wants to build them. And so, as the story says, EV owners may soon find there's nowhere left to plug in. Sales of electric vehicles are on the rise in the United States for the time being, but the road ahead for charging infrastructure looks a whole lot bumpier. Despite growing interest in EVs, the pace of building high-speed chargers isn't just lagging, it's actively falling behind. Add in looming policy shifts under the Trump administration, and the gap between supply and demand could widen even further. It's understood that the number of high-speed EV chargers being installed across the US dropped more than 21% through the first quarter compared to last year. With this in mind, Bloomberg NEF has cut its expectations for EV installations this year from 360,000 to 285,000 units. The trend does not look promising. If we continue in this direction, BNEF's outlook for annual US charger installations in 2030 could be adjusted downward by 30% or more, analyst Ash Wang said, pointing to a possible long-term impact if the current pace doesn't pick up. Shortly after taking office, President Donald Trump suspended federal funding for EV chargers, as it should. Why should these things be subsidized by the taxpayer? We didn't have to subsidize petrol stations. There was just a market for it, and they built them because they knew there would be profit, and it was worth doing. Those funds were supposed to be distributed to states through the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Formula Program, which allocated $5 billion over 5 years to install chargers in every state across the country. Just think what you could do with that $5 billion. Schools, hospitals, all sorts of things. The aim was to jumpstart installation efforts across the country and prepare the grid for rising EV demand. Well, that's not going to happen. Without it, momentum has started to slow noticeably. Good. The only way that you can sell EVs and charging stations is to pump them full of government money. I'm quite frankly sick of seeing my taxpayer money go towards building this nonsensical renewable utopia that will never exist. And in another sign that everything's heading in the wrong direction, or the right direction, whichever way you look at it, Northvolt, the battery manufacturer that went into bankruptcy a while ago, has indicated that it's going to quit production. As the headline says, Northvolt shuts down all productions in Skellefteå. Northvolt will phase out all production at the battery factory in Skellefteå gradually until the end of June. At the same time, the workforce will be greatly reduced. Northvolt made these announcements at a staff meeting on Thursday, according to information to SVT. At a staff meeting at 1 p.m, the employees were informed that they will phase out operations at Skellefteå gradually until the end of June. The bankruptcy estate has been able to continue battery cell production with a smaller number of employees thanks to the support of the existing customers. However, this arrangement is not sustainable in the long term for a single stakeholder, and thus not for the bankruptcy estate either. The trustee in bankruptcy, I think they mean, says a Google translation. Therefore, there will be a slow tapering of battery cell production in Northvolt, with the goal of stopping on June 30th, writes bankruptcy trustee Mikhail Kubu in a press release. Well, it's very sad for the poor employees who have got families and livelihoods that have just been turned upside down by this. But again, it's when you force things to happen without market pressure to help, this is the inevitable result. You end up with car manufacturers not wanting to build the cars, nobody wanting to build the infrastructure, and battery manufacturers going out of business. So you'll have seen the video I put out last week about this fire at Jacksonville Airport car park. There was some initial speculation that a Tesla had started it, but that's the kind of rumor mill nonsense that we sometimes see. It clearly wasn't a Tesla that was the seat of the fire. But here's an update. It's been 1 week since the Jack's Garage fire. Here's the latest on the investigation, car pickup and holiday travel. A week has passed since the devastating fire broke out inside the hourly parking garage at the Jacksonville International Airport, damaging about 50 cars. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, ATF, the leading investigative agency, said on Friday it is still working on determining the cause and origin of the fire. However, a Jacksonville Aviation Authority police report obtained by News4Jax on Tuesday gave some insight into what happened before the fire. No one was injured in the blaze, but according to the JAA report, JFRD firefighters treated unknown passengers for smoke inhalation. The report does not state how many people were treated. And it says the key part here is, as it's highlighted, on Monday, the JAA board officially dispelled the rumor that the fire had been started by a Tesla, but added that it was exploring the possibility that a hybrid car may have been involved. So I think we'll have to wait further for this. All the links to these stories are down in the description, so you can go and read them for yourself. The problem is, of course, that even if it wasn't a hybrid or EV that started this fire, if there was one anywhere nearby that could have been involved in the fire, it would have intensified it, even by its presence. So it may not have caused the fire, it may not have started it, but even having an EV or a hybrid anywhere near it is going to make it worse. Here's another article that hints at the fact that EVs are in fact just disposable products like iPhones and laptops, rather than assets that can be maintained for a long period of time, like a regular petrol or diesel car, of course. Volvo is accused of money-making scheme after car owner's hybrid model dies after just 4 years. It's scandalous that we're putting that much raw materials. 250 tons of material have to be mined for every single EV battery. And if we're then going to dispose of it after 4 years, and the recycling is probably non-existent, it's absolutely scandalous. A Volvo hybrid owner was saddled with a £7,500 repair bill and a car she didn't want after its electric motor packed in after less than 5 years, prompting accusations the Swedish firm is running a money-making scheme on eco-conscious owners. Yeah, gullible EV buyers who think that they're buying something that's going to last them a decent length of time, and they break after 3 years and you just chuck it away and get another one. Terry Ann Smith, 37, bought the high-tech XC60 T8 SUV for around £40,000 in 2021, snapping it up less than a year from new after it had been used as the dealership manager's daily runabout. But the mother of two from Rugby, Warwickshire, was left with a gargantuan bill after a piece of hybrid machinery with a reputation for unreliability packed in at the end of February, 4.5 years into its life. Known as ERAD, short for electric rear axle drive, the electric tech is meant to allow the car to be driven on battery power in town with a petrol engine kicking in on high-speed motorway trips. But the part is notorious among Volvo owners for its habit of failing. Nevertheless, the Swedish firm washed its hands of any responsibility when Ms. Smith complained, instead blaming her for not servicing at a Volvo garage directly. Brilliant. She had leased the car on a 4-year finance deal with a guaranteed balloon value of £18,500 to pay at the end if she wanted to keep it. She ultimately had to pay it as the motor sat in the garage while her dispute raged on, despite wanting rid of it. She has sworn never to buy from the company again, or hopefully an EV again. It has left me extremely anxious, extremely stressed, extremely angry, she told Mail Online. I usually cope with things quite well, but I had to hand this over to my husband. I told him, I cannot deal with Volvo. I cannot deal with the stress of this. I am struggling with it all. Okay. Hint. Go and buy a good used petrol or diesel car. Maintain it well. Keep it as long as you can. You'll be doing more for the environment than buying any of this electric rubbish. And again, another story from the UK, which is kind of inevitable. We kind of saw it coming, and it will continue to happen because as the crazy push for EVs gathers, well, or hopefully doesn't gather momentum, there will be more of these fires, and there will be more houses burned down because of them. And electric car fires up 77% in 2 years. It's from a very small base, so yes, you're going to get large percentages, but you know, there's still a very tiny proportion of EVs on the road, and yet we're seeing big increases in fires. Electric car fires have increased 77% over the past 2 years, new figures have revealed. There were 232 blazes attended by fire brigades last year, up from 131 3 years ago, according to the data. Electric car fires are more dangerous than petrol or diesel car fires because they are extremely hard to extinguish. Whereas petrol and diesel fires can be smothered by water, foam or fireproof blankets, lithium-ion battery fires are self-sustaining, meaning they continue to burn until the entire battery is consumed. Such fires are normally the result of thermal runaway, where batteries start to irreversibly overheat, usually owing to impact damage, overcharging or overheating. Yep, if you follow this channel, you'll know all that already, and we'll have the evangelist saying, oh, I think you know that there are so many more petrol and diesel cars that catch fire. Yeah, well, a good proportion of those that catch fire are set intentionally because of criminal enterprises, and we don't ever talk about that. The actual number of petrol and diesel cars that spontaneously catch fire for no reason is much, much smaller than the figures that you're seeing. There will be more on this. I will do more on that topic because the figures they're putting out are an absolute con. And finally, this is quite an amusing story, which could be bad news for EV drivers, because where is the battery mounted? It's under the floor. These are rising bollards in the UK, and drivers have been tailgating the cars in front to try and get through before the bollards pop back up again, and the inevitable happens. Beware the bollards warning after 6 cars hit. Drivers have been warned to beware a network of rising bollards in Leicester city centre after 6 vehicles were hit in the space of a fortnight. Leicester City Council has replaced existing bollards and installed new ones in 18 locations surrounding the pedestrian zone in the city centre over the last few months. Since they were reactivated 2 weeks ago, 6 vehicles have collided with the bollards, 5 of which were damaged. A council spokesman says CCTV has shown all the vehicles hit had tailgated others and issued a reminder for motorists to follow the rules when passing through the rising barriers. So I think this is a pedestrian zone that if you have the right app on your phone and a PIN code, you can make the bollards go down and then you can drive in to get to your business or whatever, and then they pop back up automatically after you've passed. But unscrupulous drivers behind are trying to tailgate in behind the legitimate cars, and they're getting whacked in the floor pan. So just imagine if you're driving an EV and you get a bollard whacking your battery. That could end really, really badly. Nice thermal runaway incident could eventuate very rapidly from that situation. So be careful, EV drivers in Leicester. All right, that's it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. Really hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Bye for now.